Good afternoon, I'm Kat. Welcome back to my channel. Well, actually, I haven't posted in a while, so if you have seen that my videos have been inconsistent, my husband and I just came back from a deserved break, and it was very nice to, take a break and get some relaxing done. But I'm also very happy to be home and being able to do some video recordings. So I'll probably do multiple video recordings today. But anyway, I wanted to go ahead and do my book review for the Book of the Year's books, the two books. And let me go ahead and see what years. I think I wrote down the years. Yes, so I have the two books, which are Long Way Gone for the winner of 2017 and The Edge of Belonging, which was the winner for 2021. So I'm gonna go ahead and start off with The Edge of Belonging because that's the most fresh on my mind right now. So this one was my first Amanda Cox book that I've ever read from. And the premise of The Edge of Belonging is it's dual timeline, and this timeline you see, well, I think actually it goes to 3 timelines, if I remembered correctly, but you follow in the beginning this man who is homeless, and we don't really know why he's homeless, just that he is, but he likes it that way. He much rather be on his own. And so he comes across one night some crying in the bushes and realizes there's this newborn baby girl that has been abandoned. And he, he doesn't want to leave the baby girl, but he wants to be able to find a place for her. But he is right off the bat grows very attached to the girl, especially since he understands the feeling of being abandoned, and he felt like this was a good opportunity to just to kind of show love in that way to a child that has been abandoned. So you kind of get a little bit of a sense of his thoughts about abandonment, and a little kind of brings up like what happened to him. So he realizes though that he wants to keep this a secret because the state won't let him keep the girl. So he tries to keep this hidden, but also is trying to provide for this child. So that's one timeline. Then you hit another timeline and you follow this young woman named Ivy, and she is a school counselor. And right off the bat, you know that she has a relationship with an up and coming, I think he's a politician, but it's an up and coming, very successful young man. And you can tell that the relationship is not a very good relationship, and he is in fact very controlling, very manipulative, and this is her fiance. So you get the sense also that her grandmother is not in good health and she wants to go back to see her. And so that's kind of how everything starts out. A very emotional book. I found the characters very lovable, especially the homeless young man, or the homeless man. I'm trying to remember his name. I think it's Harvey. And I loved Harvey. I really enjoyed his character. I enjoyed seeing just his growth through the book, and you're kind of rooting for him. At least I was. And I also was very intrigued with what Ivy is going through, because you see that she is struggling with this abandonment. You find out that she is actually adopted, and she's still struggling. Even though she grew up with this great family, she still has some feelings about like who she is, how she belongs, and I was really interested in reading about that. I will say that there is faith elements in it, and I thought it was really nicely done. I also enjoyed this book in the sense of it didn't drag on for her to see that the relationship she was in was pretty bad. And then all these other issues that were happening. I know some books tend to draw them out and just make the characters not see like, oh, this is bad for them, or acknowledge like this wasn't a this is not a good thing. And eventually the characters stand up and just say no more. For this book, I felt like they recognized it and you kind of moved it along. I think it was more fast paced in that. And I think it helped the story along to where it wasn't too long and it didn't drag on, but you still got like, you were still invested. I'm not sure if I'm explaining it well. There is also, for those who like romance, a slow burn romance in there, and I think it was very sweet and I enjoyed it. So, what else can I say about this book? I like that it showed a lot of things, not only with like adoption, abandonment, but it also showed like marital issues. It showed, holding on to the promises of God and how He may not answer in the way you think He would. It also shows infertility. If you're wanting to know that trigger warning, those trigger warnings, or in those content warnings, those are some of those that I remembered. But I really enjoyed the book. I gave this book 5 stars. Amanda Cox did a wonderful job. I think it's one of the best dual timelines I've seen, and just so much of the content that she put into this book, but still maintained like that faith element. I really think she did a great job. So I will be looking at more books from her. And yeah, so that's what I have to say about The Edge of Belonging. So go check it out if you haven't. And if I didn't say so already, that won the 2021 Book of the Year. Okay, so the second book is Long Way Gone by Charles Martin, and this won Book of the Year for 2017. And I have really enjoyed this book. The audio is also very, very good. So for those who don't know, Long Way Gone is a story about a musician, and you kind of get a backstory with him. He is very talented with the guitar. Like there's a disfigurement on him and you're trying to figure out what happened to him. And so the backstory goes, his dad's a traveling preacher who does tent revivals, and the man that grows up is, traveling with his dad. He sees angels when he plays, and it kind of goes through their story. It's sort of like a mini retelling of the prodigal son, and so he does end up leaving his dad in really bad terms, and wants to strike it out and play. He knows he's talented, so he wants to play in Tennessee, in Nashville, and get his own record label. Then the story goes from there. So again, it's kind of like a dual timeline because you see the past, and you kind of go through that, and then it kind of brings you back into the present. But man, this story was heart-wrenching. Again, I'm not a crier, but it is a very emotional book. I enjoyed the music aspect of it. I am a music major, so I love music in that sense. Theory was always been a little hard for me in music, but it's not very heavy in it. but it's just enough to where I'm like, I can picture it, or I can like enjoy it, the material that he is saying about it. So there's not much I can tell without giving things away from the book, but it was big in just, you know, music and worship and love and forgiveness. That is a huge theme in this book. And just the content is also very heavy with Christian aspects to this story. And I enjoyed that a lot too. It wasn't just an afterthought, it was built into the story. And I enjoy when a book does that a lot. So it is also a 5-star read. I am working on another Charles Martin book. I think he's also a good writer. You just have to push through the first few pages because it does feel like it's confusing and you're like, what's the point, what's going on? But everything has meaning to it, and once that story builds, it gets going. And just be mindful of that. So those two were the ones that I've read, and now it's time to pick 2 new books for this month. Well, so far I've had pretty good luck with these books. I mean, the first book was 4.5, and then these were 5, so 5 stars. So I'm excited to see what other new authors I could find, and hopefully these next books are going to be really good. So let's go ahead, and I'll show you right now a screenshot of the first book. And as you can see, the first book that I will be reading is Whose Waves These Are by Amanda Dykes. Again, I've never read anything by Amanda Dykes, so this would be an interesting book to read. I'm going to go ahead and read from my laptop what this is about. It says, in the wake of World War II, a grieving fisherman submits a poem to a local newspaper, a rallying cry for help, purpose, and rocks. Send me a rock for the person you lost, and I will build something life-giving. When the poem spreads farther than he ever intended, Robert Bliss's humble words change the tide of a nation. Boxes of rocks inundate the tiny coastal Maine town, and he sets his calloused hands to work, but the building halts when tragedy strikes. Decades later, Annie Bliss is summoned back to Ansel by the sea when she learns her great uncle Robert, the man who became her refuge during the hardest summer of her youth, is now the one in need of help. What she didn't anticipate was finding a wall of heavy boxes hiding in his home. Long ago memories of stone, ruins, and on a nearby island trigger her curiosity, igniting a fire in her anthropologist's soul to uncover answers. She joins forces with the handsome and mysterious harbor postman, and all her hopes of mending the decades-old chasm in her family seems to point back to the ruins. But with Robert failing fast, her search for answers battles against time, a foe as relentless as the ever-crashing waves upon the sea. So this is a historical fiction, which I enjoy, and it's also a contemporary. Yeah, I cannot wait to read this book. So on to the next spin. As you can see, the next one I got was The 5 Times I Met Myself by James R. Rubart. So again, I have not read from this person at all, and I will read you the synopsis. It says, Brock Matthews' once promising life is unraveling. His coffee company, his marriage. So when he discovers his vivid dreams where he encounters his younger self might let him change his past mistakes, he jumps at the chance. The results are astonishing but also disturbing. Because getting what Brock wants most in the world will force him to give up the one thing he doesn't know how to let go. And his greatest fear is that it's already too late. Okay, So kind of sounds almost like it's a meaningful life story. Um, but nevertheless, I am intrigued with it. I think it says, yes, it's a contemporary fiction, but it's about medium pace, but it sounds a lot about like reflecting about the past, and it sounds like a good book. So I think out of these two, I'm probably most excited by the Amanda Dykes book more so. But again, this one is very interesting to me, and I can't wait to discover if I would also add 2 new authors to my ever-growing TBR list. So that was the video, and if you have read any of these books, let me know what you thought about them, or if you have read anything from these authors. I would also love to know. So I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.